Okay, so let's look at sociology as a science, something we've already considered when we looked at beliefs, science and ideology. This is an overview slide of the stuff I'm going to look at, so you can pause this if you wish to give yourself an overview. This slide you should be familiar with, the difference between the concerns of structural sociology and social action theories. And as you may be mindful from this, positivism versus interpretivism is central to it. That structural sociologists aim to emulate science and interpretivists are quite critical. And just keep that in the back of your minds. So bear in mind, science has transformed our lives. It was central to the Enlightenment and the desire to try and find the variables to improve society, just as scientists try to improve society with their knowledge of nature. Natural science could produce true objective knowledge of the world around us to improve our lives, and many modern sociologists like Durkheim and Marx claim to be scientific theories that could also improve society with their findings. Since then, though, other sociologists have questioned the extent to which sociology can or even should be a science. Now, as you all know, Auguste Comte, one of the founders of positivism, founders of sociology most definitely, believed that reality exists outside of human beings, outside of our human mind, that it's out there and it's amongst us. Nature is made of objective, observable physical facts that are external to us, and so is society. He talks about the social facts that exist out there that affect us. Now, positivists are very interested in looking for patterns and laws. Reality, they argue, is not random, it's not chaotic, it's actually quite patterned. There's a great degree of predictability and order in the world, and we can observe these empirical patterns. It's the role of science, sociology, to identify, measure and record these patterns in a systematic way. Durkheim himself is adamant that real laws are discoverable, and that we should endeavour to try and use this to understand how society functions. And for him, the method of doing this was induction. The gathering of data about the world through careful observation and measurement. And as our knowledge grows, we begin to see generalisable patterns, and we start to see links between these generalisable patterns. So the pursuit of the truth, and we can develop a theory to explain our observations, and we can claim to have discovered the truth over time and create a general law, just like you find in science. Now, because inductive reasoning claims to verify theory, this is also called verificationism. And by finding the facts responsible for the things we've observed, we can claim to have found their causes. And ultimately, this is the purpose of what science and what sociology endeavours to do. With this, we can predict future events and use this to guide social policies, and hence positivists are in favour of macro structural explanations that look at institutions and how institutions fit together, institutions that are greater than us, and how they shape our behaviour. They prefer to use the experimental method, or most definitely quantitative data. Their research can test a hypothesis in a very systematic and controlled way, with methods which are reliable and repeatable in a very organised, systematic fashion. They prefer quantitative data, and the scientist therefore believes that they can be detached and objective. So positivists, the structural sociologists we're talking about here, believe that our subjective feelings and values should be completely separate to our work and not influence what we do. The challenge for sociology, therefore, is the fact that we're dealing with people, and therefore there's always the danger that we can contaminate what we're looking at through our own lenses, through our own bias, and the challenge, therefore, is to remain objective. And therefore they use methods that they claim can enable us to keep our values out of our research. So what do interpretivists say? Well, basically, as you all know, we should not base sociology on natural sciences. Theories like interactionism, symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, they really believe that human beings should not be being studied using scientific approaches, because sociology looks at meaningful social action, and therefore we need to use methods and approaches that look at the actors involved, their interactions and their experiences, and these are not necessarily driven by external causes, they're driven by internal meanings and internal motives within people. We need methods that give us access to that, and therefore sociology is not a science, because science only deals with laws of cause and effect and not human meaning. So the focus here for interpretivism is to be inside people, to look at these invisible things which you cannot factually perceive. And we're not like rocks. Human beings, we are very different to rocks and metals and liquids, things that you can manipulate, and watch the changes to those things for their manipulation. Natural science deals with things that have no consciousness, while sociology deals with consciousness. For natural scientists, behaviour can be explained in terms of external stimulus and its effect on individuals. For sociology, they argue, we're looking at meanings and their role with people's behaviour. And while natural science looks at there being no choice about behaviour, humans are seen by, for interpretivists anyway, sociology is looking at humans who do have consciousness and they do have a degree of choice. And it was Mead who really emphasised the nature of free will, that we don't just respond to external stimuli, that we interpret a stimuli, we go through a process before we act. So yes, we perceive it, there's then an internal process within us, and then we act. We don't just jump around like a puppet on a string. So for interpretivists, they prefer qualitative research, where we can have Verstehen. We need methods which can allow us to look at the viewpoint of social actors, what Weber calls Verstehen. We need to abandon detachment and objectivity, that we have to accept that this is going to be subjective. And the methods that they use, therefore, are high in validity. And there's a lot of interpretation. We have to read and analyse rather than just compare and find correlations. And overall, people's actions are not governed by external causes. There is no cause and effect process taking place. There's a summary there you can pause and look at, which just reminds us about the views and the approaches towards studying suicide from Durkheim, and as against the interpretivists such as Maxwell Atkinson and Jack Douglas. Postmodernists, what do different theories say about science? Well, postmodernists, as you may have gathered, they're against the idea of scientific sociology because it's just one meta-narrative, it's just one story. There are many truths out there. Science is unhealthy, therefore, because it claims to have a monopoly on the truth. And for postmodernists, there is no monopoly on the truth. Feminists, on the other hand, are also opposed to adopting the scientific approach. They see a quest for a single scientific feminist theory is a challenge. We need a more interpretivistic approach that can understand the differences and the different experiences of various women. So we're now going to move on to look in the next video at what actually is science.